Kongō, named for Mount Kongō, was a warship of the Imperial Japanese Navy during World War I and World War II. She was the first battlecruiser of the Kongō class, among the most heavily armed ships in any navy when built. Her designer was the British naval engineer George Thurston, and she was laid down in 1911 at Barrow-in-Furness in Britain by Vickers Shipbuilding Company. Kongō was the last Japanese capital ship constructed outside Japan. She was formally commissioned in 1913, and patrolled off the Chinese coast during World War I. Kongō underwent two major reconstructions. Beginning in 1929, the Imperial Japanese Navy rebuilt her as a battleship, strengthening her armor and improving her speed and power capabilities. In 1935, her superstructure was completely rebuilt, her speed was increased, and she was equipped with launch catapults for floatplanes. Now fast enough to accompany Japan's growing carrier fleet, Kongō was reclassified as a fast battleship. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, Kongō operated off the coast of mainland China before being redeployed to the Third Battleship Division in 1941. In 1942, she sailed as part of the Southern Force in preparation for the Battle of Singapore. Kongō fought in many major naval actions of the Pacific War during World War II. She covered the Japanese Army's amphibious landings in British Malaya, part of present-day Malaysia, and the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, in 1942, before engaging American forces at the Battle of Midway and during the Guadalcanal Campaign. Throughout 1943, Kongō primarily remained at Truk Lagoon in the Caroline Islands, Kure Naval Base, near Hiroshima, Sasebo Naval Base, near Nagasaki, and Linga Roads, and deployed several times in response to American aircraft carrier air raids on Japanese island bases scattered across the Pacific. Kongō participated in the Battle of the Philippine Sea and the Battle of Leyte Gulf in 1944, 22–23 October, engaging and sinking American vessels in the latter. Kongō was torpedoed and sunk by the submarine USS Sea Lion while transiting the Formosa Strait on November 21, 1944. She was the only Japanese battleship sunk by submarine in the Second World War. Design and construction. Kongō was the first of the Imperial Japanese Navy's Kongō-class battlecruisers, which were almost as large, costly and well-armed as battleships, but which traded off armored protection for higher speeds. These were designed by the British naval engineer George Thurston and were ordered in 1910 in the Japanese Emergency Naval Expansion Bill after the commissioning of HMS Invincible in 1908. These four battlecruisers of the Kongō class were designed to match the naval capabilities of the battlecruisers of the other major naval powers at the time, and they have been called the battlecruiser versions of the British, formerly Turkish, battleship HMS Aran. Their heavy armament of 14-inch naval guns and their armor protection, which took up about 23.3% of their approximately 30,000-ton displacements in 1913, were greatly superior to those of any other Japanese capital ship afloat at the time. The keel of Kongō was laid down at Barrow-in-Furness by Vickers Shipbuilding and Engineering on January 17, 1911. Under Japan's contract with Vickers, the first vessel of the class was constructed in the United Kingdom, with the remainder built in Japan. Kongō was launched on May 18, 1912, and then transferred to the dockyards of Portsmouth, England, where her fitting out began in mid-1912. All parts used in her construction were manufactured in the UK. Kongō was completed on April 16, 1913. Siemens Vickers scandal. In January 1914, a telegram leaked from Siemens' Tokyo office to Reuters along with further reporting by the New York Times and Asahi Shimbun led to an investigation by Japanese authorities which revealed a pattern of bribery and kickbacks by German and English armaments corporations. Siemens had been paying senior Japanese officials a secret 15% kickback, until Vickers had outbid them by offering 25%. Vickers had paid 210,000 yen to Admiral Fuji of the Imperial Japanese Navy procurement in 1911 and 1912, and 40,000 yen to Vice Admiral Kazu, related to obtaining the contract for building Kongō. Kazu was court-martialed in May 1914, fined 400,000 yen and sentenced to 3 years in prison. As a result of the Siemens-Vickers scandal revolving around the contracts of building Kongō, the government of Prime Minister Yamamoto resigned March 23, 1914. Senior executives of the Mitsui Corporation, Japanese partners of Vickers, also resigned. Armament. Kongō's main battery consisted of 8 14-inch, 356 mm, heavy-caliber main naval guns and 4 twin turrets, 2 forward and 2 aft. 5. The turrets were noted by the U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence to be similar to the British 15-inch turrets, with improvements made in flash tightness. Each of her main guns could fire high-explosive or armor-piercing shells 38,770 yards, 19.14 nautical miles, 35.45 kilometers, at a rate of about 2 shells per minute. In keeping with the Japanese doctrine of deploying more powerful vessels before their opponents, Kongō and her sister ships were the first vessels in the world equipped with 14-inch, 356mm, guns. Her main guns carried ammunition for 90 shots, and they had an approximate barrel lifetime of 250 to 280 shots. In 1941, separate dies were introduced for the armor-piercing shells of the 4 Kongō-class battleships to assist with targeting, with Kongō's armor-piercing shells using red dye. The secondary battery of Kongō originally consisted of 16 6-inch, 152mm, 50 caliber guns and single casemates located amidships. 50 caliber means that the lengths of the guns were 50 times their bore, or 300 inches, 8 3-inch, 76mm, guns, and 8 submerged 21-inch, 533mm, torpedo tubes. Her 6-inch naval guns could fire 5 to 6 rounds per minute, with a barrel lifetime of about 500 rounds. The 6-inch/50 caliber gun was capable of firing both anti-aircraft and antiship shells, though the positioning of these guns on Kongō made anti-aircraft firing mostly impractical. During her second reconstruction, the older 3-inch guns were removed and then replaced with 8 5-inch, 127mm, 5-inch/40 caliber dual-purpose guns. These guns could fire from 8 to 14 rounds per minute, with a barrel lifetime of about 800 to 1,500 rounds. Of Kongō's guns, the 5-inch guns had the widest variety of shell types: anti-aircraft, antiship, and illumination shells. Kongō was also armed with many 1-inch, 25mm, anti-aircraft machine guns. By October 1944, Kongō's secondary armament was reconfigured to 8 6-inch, 152mm, guns, 8 5-inch, 127mm, guns, and 122 Type 96 anti-aircraft rapid-fire cannons. Service history. On August 16, 1913, Kongō was completed and commissioned into the Imperial Japanese Navy, IJN. 12 days later, she departed from Portsmouth headed for Japan. She was docked at Singapore from 20 to 27 October, before arriving at Yokosuka Naval Arsenal on 5 November, where she was placed in First Reserve. 6. In January 1914, she docked at Kure Naval Base for armament checks. On August 3, 1914, the German Empire declared war on France, and then invaded via Belgium, sparking the beginning of World War I in the West. 12 days later, Japan issued a warning to Kaiser Wilhelm II of the German Empire, ordering him to withdraw the German troops from their base at Tsingtao, China. When the German Empire did not respond, Japan declared war on Germany on 23 August, occupying the former German possessions in the Caroline Islands, Palau Islands, Marshall Islands, and Marianas Islands. 6. Kongō was quickly deployed towards the Central Pacific to patrol the sea lines of communication of the German Empire. Kongō returned to the port of Yokosuka, Japan, on 12 September, and 1 month later, she was assigned to the First Battleship Division. In October, Kongō and her new sister ship Hiei sortied off the Chinese coast in support of Japanese army units during the siege of Tsingtao. Then Kongō returned to Sasebo Naval Base for upgrades to her searchlights. On October 3, 1915, Kongō and Hiei participated in the sinking of the old Imperator Nikolai I as a practice target. She was a Russian pre-dreadnought that had been captured in 1905 during the Russo-Japanese War that had next served as an IJN warship. With the defeat of the German East Asia Squadron by the Royal Navy at the Battle of the Falkland Islands in December 1914, there was little or no need for IJN operations in the Pacific Ocean. Kongō spent the rest of World War I either based at Sasebo, or on patrol off the coast of China. 6. In December 1918, following the end of the hostilities of World War I, Kongō was placed in Second Reserve. In April 1919, she was fitted with a new seawater flooding system for her ammunition magazines. With the conclusion of World War I, and the signing of the Washington Naval Treaty on February 6, 1922, the size of the IJN was significantly limited, with a ratio of 5 to 5:3 required between the capital ships of the United Kingdom, the United States, and the Japanese Empire, since the latter was responsible for only one ocean, rather than the two of the other countries, and fewer warships for France and Italy. This treaty also banned the signatories from building any new capital ships until 1931, with no capital ship permitted to exceed 35,000 long tons, 36,000 t, in displacement. Provided that new additions did not exceed 3,000 tons of displacement, the existing capital ships were allowed to be upgraded with improved anti-torpedo bulges and armored main decks. By the time that the Washington Naval Treaty had been fully implemented in Japan, only 3 classes of World War I-type capital ships remained active: the Ise-class battleships, the Kongō-class battlecruisers, and the Fuso-class battleships. In April 1923, Kongō gave transportation to Crown Prince Hirohito during his official visit to the Japanese possession of Taiwan. On June 14, 1924, she collided with submarine number 62 during maneuvers. In November 1924, Kongō docked at Yokosuka, where modifications were made to her main armament, increasing the elevation of her main guns and improving her fire control systems. In 1927, Kongō underwent major modifications to her superstructure, rebuilding it into the pagoda mast style to accommodate the growing number of fire control systems for her main guns. In May 1928, her steering equipment was upgraded, before she was placed in reserve in preparation for major modifications and reconstruction in 1929-31. 1929 to 1935, reconstruction into battleship. Prohibited by the Washington Treaty from constructing new capital ships until 1931, Japan resorted to upgrading their World War I-era battleships and battlecruisers. Beginning in September 1929, Kongō underwent extensive modernization and modification in dry dock at Yokosuka Naval Arsenal. Over the next 2 years, Kongō's horizontal armor near her ammunition magazines was strengthened, and the machinery spaces within the hull were given increased torpedo protection. Anti-torpedo bulges were added along the waterline, as permitted by the Washington Treaty. She was refitted to accommodate 3 Type 90 Model 0 floatplanes, though no aircraft catapults were fitted. To increase her speed and power, all 36 of her Euro boilers were removed, and then replaced with 16 newer boilers, and Brown Curtis direct drive turbines were installed. Kongō's forward funnel was removed, and her second funnel was enlarged and lengthened. The modifications to her hull increased her armor weight from 6,502 to 10,313 long tons, directly violating the terms of the Washington Naval Treaty. In March 1931, Kongō, now capable of a speed of 29 knots, 54 km per hour, was reclassified as a battleship. On April 22, 1930, Japan signed the London Naval Treaty, placing further restrictions on the signatories' naval forces. Several of her older battleships were scrapped, and no new capital ships were built as replacements. After minor fitting-out work, Kongō's reconstruction began in September 1929, and was declared complete on March 31, 1931. On December 1, 1931, 2 months after the Japanese invasion of Manchuria, Kongō was assigned to the First Battleship Division, and also designated the flagship of the combined fleet. Additional rangefinders and searchlights were fitted to her superstructure in January 1932, and Captain Nobutake Kondo assumed command of the vessel in December. In 1933, aircraft catapults were fitted between the 2 rear turrets. On February 25, 1933, following a report by the Lytton Commission, the League of Nations agreed that Japan's invasion of China had violated Chinese sovereignty. Refusing to accept the judgment of this organization, Japan withdrew from the League of Nations on the same day. Japan also immediately withdrew from the Washington Naval Treaty and the London Naval Treaty, thus removing all restrictions on the numbers and sizes of her capital warships. In November 1934, Kongō was placed in Second Reserve in preparation for further modifications. On January 10, 1935, Kongō was toured by the Nazi German naval attaché to Japan, Captain Paul Wenneker, as part of a gunnery demonstration. 1935 to 1941, fast battleship. On June 1, 1935, Kongō was dry docked at Yokosuka Naval Arsenal in preparation for upgrades that would enable her to escort Japan's growing fleet of aircraft carriers. Her stern was lengthened by 26 feet, 7.9 meters, to improve her fineness ratio, and her 16 older boilers were removed and then replaced with 11 oil-fired compound boilers and newer geared turbines. In addition, her bridge was completely reconstructed according to Japan's pagoda-mast style of forward superstructure, and catapults were added to support 3 Nakajima E-8N or Kawanishi E-7K reconnaissance and spotter floatplanes. Kongō's armor was also extensively upgraded. Her main belt was strengthened to a uniform thickness of 8 inches, up from varying thicknesses of 6 to 8 inches, and also diagonal bulkheads of depths ranging from 5 to 8 inches, 127 to 203 millimeters, were added to reinforce the main armored belt. The turret armor was strengthened to 10 inches, 254 millimeters, while 4 inches, 102 millimeters, were added to portions of the deck armor. Kongō's ammunition magazine protection was also strengthened to 4.0 inches, 10 centimeters. This reconstruction was finished on January 8, 1937. Capable of greater than 30 knots, 56 kilometers per hour, despite the significant increase in her hull displacement, Kongō was now reclassified as a fast battleship. In February 1937, Kongō was assigned to the Sasebo Naval District, and in December she was placed under the command of Takeo Kurita in the Third Battleship Division. In April 1938, 2 floatplanes from Kongō bombed the Chinese town of Foochow during the Second Sino-Japanese War. Throughout 1938 and 1939, Kongō steamed off the Chinese coast in support of Japanese Army operations during the war. In November 1939, Captain Raizo Tanaka assumed command of Kongō. From November 1940 to April 1941, additional armor was added to Kongō's armament barbets and ammunition tubes, while ventilation and firefighting equipment was also improved. In August 1941, she was assigned to the Third Battleship Division under the command of Vice Admiral Genichi Mikawa alongside her fully modified sister warships Hiei, Hiroshima and the Haruna. 1942, Pacific War Service. Kongō and Haruna departed from the Hashirajima Fleet anchorage on November 29, 1941 to begin the war in the Pacific as part of the Southern, Malay, Forces main body, under the overall command of Vice Admiral Nobutake Kondo. On December 4, 1941, the main body arrived off the coast of southern Thailand and northern Malaya in preparation for the invasion of Thailand and the Malayan Peninsula 4 days later. When Britain's 4C, consisting of the battleship Prince of Wales and the battlecruiser Repulse, was quickly defeated by Japan's land-based aircraft from southern Vietnam, Kongō's battlegroup withdrew from Malayan waters. This battlegroup subsequently sortied from Indochina for 3 days in mid-December to protect a reinforcement convoy traveling to Malaya, and again on 18 December to cover the Japanese Army's landing at Lingayen Gulf, Luzon, in the Philippines. The main body departed Cam Ranh Bay in French Indochina on 23 December bound for Taiwan, arriving 2 days later. 6. In January 1942, Kongō and the heavy cruisers Takao and Otago provided distant cover for air attacks on Ambon Island. On 21 February, Kongō was joined by Haruna, 4 fast aircraft carriers, 5 heavy cruisers and numerous support ships in preparation for Operation J, Japan's invasion of the Dutch East Indies. On 25 February, the 3rd Battleship Division provided cover for air attacks on the island of Java. Kongō bombarded Christmas Island off the western coast of Australia on March 7, 1942, and then she returned to staring by for 15 days of standby alert. In April 1942, Kongō joined 5 fleet carriers in attacks on Colombo and Trincomalee on Ceylon. Following the destruction of the British heavy cruisers HMS Dorsetshire and HMS Cornwall on April 5, 1942, this naval task force moved southwest to locate the remainder of the British Eastern Fleet, then under the command of Admiral James Somerville. On 9 April, one of Haruna's reconnaissance seaplanes spotted the aircraft carrier HMS Hermes south of Trincomalee. On the same day, Japanese air attacks sank the carrier, 29, and Kongō was attacked but missed by 9 British medium bombers. Having crippled the offensive capability of Britain's Eastern Fleet, the 3rd Battleship Division returned to Japan. Kongō reached Sasebo on 22 April. From 23 April to 2 May, Kongō was dry-docked for reconfiguration of her anti-aircraft armament. On May 27, 1942, Kongō sortied with Hiei and the heavy cruisers Otago, Chokai, Miyoko, and Haguro as part of Admiral Nobutake Kondo's invasion force during the Battle of Midway. Following the disastrous loss of 4 of the combined fleet's fast carriers on June 4, 1942, Kondo's force withdrew to Japan. 30. On 14 July she was assigned as the flagship of the restructured Third Battleship Division. In August, Kongō was dry-docked at Kure to receive surface detection radar and additional range finders. 24. In September, Kongō embarked with Hiei, Haruna, Kirishima, 3 carriers, and numerous smaller warships in response to the U.S. Marine Corps' amphibious landing on Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands. On 20 September, this task force was ordered to return to the Truk Naval Base in the Central Pacific north of the equator. In the aftermath of the Battle of Cape Esperance, the Japanese Army opted to reinforce its troops on Guadalcanal. To protect their transport convoy from enemy air attack, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto sent Haruna and Kongō, escorted by 1 light cruiser and 9 destroyers, to bombard the American air base at Henderson Field. Because of their high speeds, these 2 battleships could bombard the airfield and then withdraw before being subjected to air attack from either land-based warplanes or American aircraft carriers. 32. On the night of 13 to 14 October, these 2 battleships shelled the area of Henderson Field from a distance of about 16,000 yards, 15,000 meters, firing 973 14-inch high explosive shells. In the most successful Japanese battleship action of the war, 26, the bombardment heavily damaged both runways, destroyed almost all of the U.S. Marines' aviation fuel, destroyed or damaged 48 of the Marines' 90 warplanes, and killed 41 Marines. A large Japanese troop and supply convoy reached Guadalcanal the next day. During the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands on October 26, 1942, Kongō was attacked by 4 Grumman TBF Avenger torpedo bombers, but she received no hits. In mid-November, this battleship and other warships provided distant cover for the unsuccessful mission by the IJN to bombard Henderson Field again and to deliver more Army reinforcements to Guadalcanal. On November 15, 1942, following the Japanese defeat and the sinking of Hiei and Kirishima during the naval battle of Guadalcanal, the 3rd Battleship Division returned to Truk, where it remained for the rest of 1942. 1943, movement between bases. Throughout 1943, Kongō engaged no enemy targets. In late January 1943, she participated in Operation K as part of a diversionary and distant covering force to support IJN destroyers that were evacuating Army troops from Guadalcanal. 34. From 15 February through February 20, 1943, the 3rd Battleship Division was transferred from Truk to the Kure Naval Base. On 27 February, Kongō was dry-docked to receive upgrades to her anti-aircraft armament, with the additions of 2 triple 25mm gun mounts and the removal of 2 of her 6-inch turrets, while additional concrete protection was added near her steering gear. On May 17, 1943, in response to the U.S. Army's invasion of Otto Island, Kongō sortied alongside Musashi, the 3rd Battleship Division, 2 fleet carriers, 2 cruisers, and 9 destroyers. 3 days later, the American submarine USS Sawfish spotted this naval task force, but she was unable to attack it. On May 22, 1943, the task force arrived in Yokosuka, where it was joined by an additional 3 fleet carriers and 2 light cruisers. This force was disbanded when Otto fell to the U.S. Army before the necessary preparations for a counterattack had been finished. On October 17, 1943, Kongō again left Truk as part of a larger task force consisting of 5 battleships, 3 fleet carriers, 8 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and numerous destroyers. These sortied in response to U.S. Navy air raids on Wake Island. No contact between the 2 forces was made, and the Japanese task force returned to Truk on October 26, 1943. She soon left Truk for home waters, and on December 16, 1943, Kongō arrived at Sasebo for refits and training in the inland sea. 1944, Combat and Loss. In January 1944, Kongō was dry-docked for a reconfiguration of her anti-aircraft suite. 4 6-inch guns and a pair of twin 25mm mounts were removed and replaced with 6 twin 5-inch guns and 4 triple 25mm mounts. The 3rd Battleship Division departed from Kure on March 8, 1944. Arriving at Linga on March 14, 1944, the division remained for training until May 11, 1944. On May 11, 1944, Kongō and Admiral Ozawa's mobile fleet departed from Linga bound for Tawi-Tawi, where they were joined by Vice Admiral Takeo Kurida's Force C. On 13 June, Ozawa's mobile fleet departed from Tawi-Tawi bound for the Mariana Islands. During the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Kongō escorted Japanese fast carriers and remained undamaged in counterattacks from U.S. carrier aircraft on 20 June. 4. When she returned to Japan, 13 triple and 40 single 25mm mounts were added to her anti-aircraft armament, for a total of over 100 mounts. In August, 2 more 6-inch guns were removed and another 18 single mounts installed. In October 1944, Kongō departed from Linga in preparation for Operation Show 1, Japan's counterattack during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the largest naval engagement in history. 36. On 24 October, Kongō was undamaged by several near misses from American carrier aircraft in the Battle of the Sibuyan Sea. On 25 October, during the battle off Samar, Kongō, as part of Admiral Kurida's Center Force, engaged the U.S. 7th Fleet's Taffy III, a battle group of escort carriers and destroyers. She succeeded in scoring numerous hits on the escort carrier Gambier Bay as well as the destroyers Hull and Heermann. At 9:12, she sank the destroyer escort Samuel B. Roberts. After a fierce defensive action by the American ships, which sank 3 Japanese heavy cruisers, Admiral Kurita elected to withdraw, ending the battle. 37. While retreating, Kongō suffered damage from 5 near misses from attacking aircraft. The fleet arrived at Brunei on 28 October. On 16 November, following a U.S. air raid on Brunei, Kongō along with Yamato, Nagato and the rest of the First Fleet, departed from Brunei bound for Kure in preparation for a major reorganization of the fleet and battle repairs. On 20 November, they entered the Formosa Strait. Shortly after midnight on 21 November, the submarine USS Sea Lion made radar contact with the fleet at 44,000 yards, 40,000 meters. 38. Maneuvering into position at 2:45, Sea Lion fired 6 boat torpedoes at Kongō followed by 3 stern torpedoes at Nagato 15 minutes later. 1 minute after the first salvo was launched, 2 of the torpedoes were seen to hit Kongō on the port side, while a third sank the destroyer Urikaz with all hands. The torpedoes flooded 2 of Kongō's boiler rooms, but she was still able to make 16 knots, 30 km per hour, 18 miles per hour. By 5 o'clock, she had slowed to 11 knots, 20 km per hour, 13 miles per hour, and was given permission to break off from the fleet and head to the port of Keelung in Formosa along with the destroyers Hamikaze and Isakaze as escort. Within 15 minutes of detaching from the main force, Kongō was listing 45 degrees and flooding uncontrollably. At 5:18 the ship lost all power and the order was given to abandon ship. At 5:24, while the evacuation was underway, the forward 14-inch magazine exploded, and the broken ship sank quickly, with the loss of over 1,200 of her crew, including the commander of the Third Battleship Division and her captain. Kongō is believed to have sunk in 350 feet, 110 meters, of water approximately 55 nautical miles, 102 kilometers, 63 miles, northwest of Keelung. She was one of only 3 British-built battleships sunk by submarine attack during World War II. The other 2 were the British Revenge-class battleship HMS Royal Oak and the Queen Elizabeth-class battleship HMS Barham.